All right, guys, this is Cam. We're here with my podcast about games, and I've got a guest today. This guest is a friend of mine from long time back, from high school, actually. This is Paul. Go ahead and say hello, Paul.
Hello, I'm Paul.
Yes, Paul is here. He's in the house, and we are talking about Gears of War 4. The good, the bad, and the ugly. The bad. We'll start with the bad, because everybody wants to hear the dirt. Everybody wants to hear the dirt on Gears of War. There's always horrible things to be said about these games. But I think I'll let you start.
Well, you know, oh my gosh, I'm so bad at this. Sorry.
Deep breaths, we can edit it.
Well, I mean, it's hard where even to begin? Like,
let's talk about
the removal of the sawed-off. You know, you don't really have any alternatives to the Gnasher. Like, it's basically just like the Gnasher's like the only weapon. You know, like
back the way it's supposed to be, back in the good old days. No,
yeah, no.
Well, I mean, there's kind of alternatives. In Gears of War 3, the sawed-off was an alternative to the Gnasher. Very close-range weapon.
Exactly, and they removed that.
And but also so was, to an extent, the Retro Lancer, some would argue. Retro Lancer's been nerfed considerably since the previous entries in the franchise.
I still like it in the fourth one, but you don't get to start with it.
Yeah, it's not a starting weapon.
The
Enforcer
weapon.
kind of is supposed to be an answer to it, but I really don't. I don't have trouble dealing with the Enforcer ever.
Me neither. You just bounce around them and then shoot them in one hit.
Yeah, basically the overkill, I would argue, is the one thing that's supposed to be the answer, but yet again, it's a pickup weapon. So we've kind of seen a regression in the way the game is played. Gears of War Judgment kind of went pants on head crazy with customization of your loadouts, because I think you could start with like 8 different weapons or something like that. Which
that was
wasn't
actually great.
bad, but at the same time, there was clearly guns that were better than others. And the overall balance of that game, I think, ended up hurting its longevity and popularity amongst the fans. That and the fact that you can go DBNO, but that's besides the point. Reeling it back into Gears of War 4, the Gnasher is. Some would argue it's a good thing that it's stronger than never ever before. The amount of changes that are done around the other weapons, I think, has kind of hampered veterans that return to the series. I mean, if you look at the Hammer Burst, for example, what 2 Gears of War games can you name where the Hammer Burst acted the same? Because I can't think of any.
Me neither. It was trash for the first 2 games.
We've had 5 Gears of War games, and every single one of these damn games, the Hammer Burst is a different weapon.
I mean, I guess it acts more similarly to how it is in 3 than the other 2.
I'd say it's like a hybrid between 3 and the classic HB that they've had in Judgment. I think that having a variety of weapons to start out with, maybe not in competitive, is that's not as important. But in core modes, like modes that most people end up playing, I think it's important to have multiple options, so people aren't gonna spawn without a Gnasher. That's basically a given. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I feel like your rifling options should change, whether you want to focus more on a close range based game and being able to stay in for longer innings with a Gnasher, because you have the Enforcer to switch to if you need to put some space between you while still keeping pressure and putting damage on, versus if you want to back up and rifle a little bit to try to push the enemies back so you guys can get in to take a hill or pick up a weapon or whatever it is that you're trying to go for. I think that them removing options from the base players, like for what you can spawn from, especially as late in the game that they did that with the removal of the Hammer Burst and Core, I feel like that's the ugly of this game, to be honest.
Yeah, it really is.
If you can compare this to like the fans complaining about how strong the sawed-off shotgun was in Gears of War 3. Mm-hmm. And that gun literally got nerfed to the point where you were hampered if you took it. You were hampered in your ability to actually make good plays, because the gun was basically a sword by the time they got done nerfing it, and people still complained about it.
Yeah,
which boggles my mind that you can
boggles
think
my
that a
mind
gun
too.
that anybody could think that a gun with the second slowest reload time in the game and only one bullet in the chamber with barely any range is overpowered at all.
And the Nasher was still better than it, like in
With the
almost every
second
situation.
lowest, second quickest reload time in the game behind the snub pistol, and the range on that gun, they should have put a scope on it for Christ's sakes with how far away
Yeah.
you could down people with that thing. I will say that they did get a little bit better about the range, about the abusive range of the Nasher that Gears of War 3 had in Gears of War 4. I do think I like that better, that it's no longer, I don't get my head, well, no, that was Ultimate. We won't talk about Ultimate Edition. I don't get my, I don't get like down from half across the map because somebody's shooting at me with a Nasher from upstairs where snipers spawn. Like that type of stuff happened to me in Gears of War 3.
Yeah.
And I know it happened to you too.
Yeah, I remember that in like Gears of War 1 too. Like people just active and then down you from halfway across the map.
And I think that's another thing I hate about this game is the fact that you can active right off the bat.
It doesn't really bother me because people would just shoot their gun anyway before, and then when they'd run into fight, they'd active. Like it's not any different. It's just easier to do now.
Yeah,
Really.
but at the same time, they don't have to burn ammo to do it anymore, so it's no longer
Yeah.
a gamble for a power play.
At the same time, though, they nerfed the they gave it that like 10-second cooldown between actives, I guess.
Which I think I do like, actually.
I'm kind of on the fence because I used to just have that buff all the time because I always active, and now it's like I still active, but I don't get the buff anymore, and it makes me sad.
Yeah, but you look at how abused it was. In
Yeah,
certain
but I mean,
scenarios.
that was like you're just utilizing, one of the game's like staple mechanics, the active reload.
Well,
You know,
I
and
will say
there's-
this: I definitely enjoy it for certain weapons.
Yeah, Yeah.
Maybe not so much. I mean, maybe not. You could argue rather than Nasher, it's a good call to have that cooldown on that. But I think that certain power weapons that you pick up that have, like the boom shot, for example, the fact that there's like cooldowns on the actives for that, I think is important as well. Snipers too, really helps with that because people used to just active one shot down, and that was that got abused. I know quite a bit back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
So the ugly of Gears of War, I'd say, is when you have a game that's finished, it's been out for a year and a half, and then all of a sudden you change a huge part of the game. You just 180 on it, and you just like completely rip it out. And people who haven't played the game in a couple of months might be coming back to it, and then they start up and they're like, did they remove this weapon altogether? I don't see it anymore. And they'll get confused because maybe they'll go to play social quick play and they'll play it for a time, and then they go to the actual game in core or ranked ranked doesn't matter, but in core where if you're just playing casually for fun, and then that's not there anymore. And I feel like there needs to be a bigger separation between core and ranked, because if you were to ask me the difference between core and ranked, other than the modes available, I really couldn't tell you that much. I know the Nasher supposedly works a bit differently in ranked than it does in core.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Slightly, yeah. And apparently there's some minor tweaks to the Lancer as well, but I've played both relatively extensively, and because I do like escalation a lot, and I like King of the Hill, and I can't really, I don't find myself able to do one thing in a mode that I can't do in the other, with how the weapons are balanced. So it almost, with the way it's balanced it differently between the two modes, it almost makes it seem like sort of a nuisance, and like it's consuming their time worrying about core and competitive weapon tuning when they could be focusing their efforts on patches and fixing servers and stuff like that, because servers in Gears of War 4, that's another thing that's ugly, is the servers are horribly laggy. And I mean, on the computer, with an Ethernet wired connection, you generally don't lag as much as you would on, say, a console, but there's still times when you'll shoot somebody and then because the server's running behind, you actually get killed, not them, and it doesn't tick correctly. I mean, everybody's had that 1v1 Nasher fight where you go up to bat and at the end of the day, you felt like you just played the slot machine instead of something that was based on skill, which is arguably what all the people who complained about wanting the hammerburst taken out of core tuning is obvious. Is I get what they would argue that they value about the game, and I see a lot of the same people kind of upset about this as well, that the servers are really bad.
Mm-hmm.
What's your biggest horror story due to servers?
I don't know. I mean, it's really just a lot of the same thing where it's, you fire a shot into somebody, and you get that feeling like boom, boom, I got them, and it's a kill trade like a 0.5 seconds after you destroy them or something like that, or it's hard to think of something specific.
Or like when you're aiming down the sight and somebody's running up to you and you pull the trigger.
And the bullet goes through their head and they dodge after.
Yeah, and you when you're dead, you said, oh, you did 70% damage to one shot. You're like, 70%, all the bullets went into his skull. Where did the rest of the 30? Where did the other 30% go? Like, yeah, no, that's bad. And another thing that I think is hideous about the servers is,
and you know what, it's weird after playing Overwatch where like you don't notice the lag at all. Like if you fire a bullet, if you are pointing at somebody and you pull the trigger, they die. Whereas in this game, if you're pointing at somebody and you pull the trigger, they only die if you had compensated for that like 0.5 second delay and aimed ahead of them, or like predicted where they were going to be essentially.
Yeah, and I will say this: if I really have no right to complain about and in a sense, I have very little right to complain about servers when you look at how Gears of War used to be in Gears of War like 1 and 2, where hosts would always just clean house and there's literally nothing you could do. You were literally powerless to stop them.
Dude, I had a friend who literally got host every game. Every game he got
that was a good friend to have.
Yeah, dude, it was.
You would only want to play when they're on for fear that your KD might drop. I love the game, man. I love the Gears of War game. Its community scares me, though. I'm not gonna lie. Its community really scares me.
Oh yeah, I've not paid attention to the community, but considering that they are the ones crying for their move, like I can imagine.
When the it doesn't look good on a developer's part either, in my opinion, when you let the fans dictate what should be in a game that's already been released. Because you've already made the executive decision, you've scaled the damage up and down and the reload times and the fire rates multiple times. You've edited these things, and you have the same people who just cry about it, and then they say, oh, well, anybody who uses the hammer burst, they just sit there and shoot. Well, that might be true for some. There's plenty of people that I've seen, myself included, that like to walk around with it and use it at range, because I don't always want to rush in and kill people with an Asher. If there's 5 guys in a point and I've got a hammer burst, I'm going to put pressure on there. I'm not just, oh yeah, I got this 5v1. That's idiocy to run in there. If you had a Lancer, you'd do the same damn thing. So before you even front and tell me that I'm not ballsy for not wanting to rush up with an Asher.
Coward speak.
Exactly. And then these same jokers have the audacity to say, all these fake diamonds are going to have to adapt and change to the game. I'm like, adapt and change? That's a really funny idea. It's almost as if y'all should have done the same damn thing that you preaching. Like, and I can't. Oh, it fills me with rage. It really grinds my gears. Pun intended. Grinds my gears. I guess the next part of this, though, it's still fun though. It's still very much at its heart a Gears of War game.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the one thing that matters is, does it still feel like the game that it's supposed to be? The microtransactions and loot boxes, they don't really add much to the game. I feel like they take away more than they help.
Definitely. They're a pain.
The microtrans, well, the only thing that I would argue would make it almost, the one glaring problem I have that could be fixed, that I would not care about the damn loot boxes, the loot box system. I wouldn't care about it, is if they would just make horde skills craftable from the get-go. You don't have to find the skill to be able to buy more of it. That's blows my mind that you can buy anything else in the game with your scrap metal and your CR, but you can't buy horde skills.
Yeah.
Like from the get-go, you have to find them before you can buy them. It's like, oh, you want a Mewtwo? You gotta go and look for one. It's like, no, dude, I just want to buy it. Like, I'm going to eBay. Give me my skill. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's that if they would fix that, loot boxes I think would be trivial at the most in terms of what takes out of a game, because there's no rule saying that you have to support the loot box system. So a lot of people get really up in arms over loot boxes and stuff, and I just kind of see it as more of a nuisance than a large standing problem.
Yeah, I'm not quite as incensed as some people are.
Shifting away from multiplayer, let's talk about Horde for a minute. A lot of people like Horde 4.0. I like Horde 4.0.
Yes, it's a lot of fun. I love it, as you know. I can't get enough of it, but no, people leave constantly. It's the great mystery of Gears of War, right?
That's another ugly of Gears of War 4 is the mysterious Horde players that stick around for 10 waves and then are gone, or more often than that, the Horde players that leave immediately after the game starts up.
Yeah.
Do you think that they should issue bans for people who leave before the game starts?
I feel like something needs to be done, at least like from Horde. Like if you leave in the beginning of every Horde, like you should get a suspension or something.
From
like,
Horde, not from multiplayer.
From Horde specifically, yeah.
I feel like there needs to be more to like separate, because like you can play matchmaking and get DDoSed. And they won't let you reconnect to the server, and then next thing you know, you're sitting there for 15 minutes waiting to play a game.
You know what?
Maybe they won't let you go into Horde either, but you just got DDoSed from these crappy servers.
I realize the servers are so shit they can't do that. Like they can't enforce bans on people disconnecting because of how bad their servers are.
They shouldn't enforce it, but they do. They have 15-minute bans, and there's talks for competitive. There's been talks of increasing that time limit from 15 to 30 minutes.
Yeah, that'll stop people from disconnecting.
That'll stop people from playing the game.
Yeah, it will.
I mean, I like the competitive nature of Gears of War. It's always something I've enjoyed. I don't like that the competitive scene for that game though is as forced as it is.
I'm less familiar with the competitive scene.
Like the whole we know what's right for you in core. This is really going back to what we talked about earlier with the removal of weapons from core matchmaking for starting out. But the fact that they claim that if it's not something that's super if it's not to MLG standards, then it's not a fun game to play, and I disagree with that wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
Well, I think that they need to leave core alone. They need to leave core the way it's been. I guess the damage has already been done with them taking the Hammerburst out. That putting it back in at this point is just going to add more confusion, really, than it's going to clear anything up. But I definitely don't think that they need to do anything else with core. They should scale back the damage on the Lancer too, because I felt that was kind of hypocritical for them to get rid of the Hammerburst when the Lancer is also just
they already did. I looked it up, and the differences between core and competitive, and they did nerf the Lancer in core.
In core or competitive?
In core, or I mean, sorry, in competitive. In competitive, the Lancer's weak, and the pistol is stronger, and the Gnasher has shorter range. Interesting.
It's almost as if shotguns are supposed to be shotguns.
I thought... Okay, I get confused. I'm sorry. I thought core and competitive are the same thing.
No, because competitive is execution and escalation. And then core is Koth, TDM, Guardian.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And another mode that's not going to be dodgeball.
Dodgeballs? That's the core? I didn't know that. I actually like that mode.
Yeah, they actually they got rid of Warzone. And you can only play it in quick play now.
Yeah, well, fuck Warzone.
Yeah, I never was a fan. Horde is good though. I like how classes actually I like how there's classes. That makes it
Yeah,
more
I
fun.
like that too. Like being able to kill enemies in one shot as a sniper is so much better than having to switch to the torque bow in order to get one-shot headshots, as like, because that's the only way you can get one-shot kills in at least the older hordes. Um, yeah, with the torque bow.
I like that you can you have the option to it doesn't force you to play like a certain type of way. Like in Gears of War 3, Gears of War 2, you had to there were certain like only certain areas you could hold out in for Gears of War 3 because of where you could set up your command center, and in Gears of War 2 it was even more limited to where do you think these boom shields that you can plant will actually be able to hold off the bad guys for long enough for you guys to get done whatever you're trying to do with no damage buffs. So you'd literally just sit there and pour clips on clips on clips on clips of the Lancer into the same enemy and it'd never die. And I talked to an individual at one point in time during the Gears of War Pro Tour that they had going back when they were offering the nuclear weapon skins for watching the Twitch streams. And there was this one individual who claimed that Gears of War 2 Horde was the best Horde. And I really tried to put myself in his shoes and try to understand where he was coming from. And I asked him, I said, well, how do you figure? I don't think I ever really got a straight answer from the man. He just kind of told me that, oh, well, it wasn't all this gimmicky crap. I'm like, I don't really think it's gimmicky. If by gimmicky you mean stuff that added depth, I mean, I guess you might want the game to be more bare bones feeling, and it feels more raw. I don't really... I couldn't understand where he's coming from, to summarize it, though. And the fact that he seemed so adamant in hating on Gears of War 3 and 4 as Horde, I just was really perplexed. I was like, did you play them? I was like, because I played 2, and I remember I played Horde on Blood Drive on Gears of War 2. It was like the map that I played it with my friends when I played it. And we'd go in that hallway where the grenades spawned, and we'd just throw up a boom shield in front and a boom shield in the back and just kind of hope for the best. Hope that, the grenades didn't come flying in through the window and kill us both. I think that having like more defense like razor wires are better than having, just boom shields. For one, you can actually shoot over them.
I really like the addition of the fortifications in 3, and I like them even more in 4 when with the freedom to place them wherever you want.
That is so good. It's not like guaranteed where, I mean, you could argue that maybe in 3 it's nice that like if you choose one of those placements, there's a guaranteed way to get the thing done because they take that into consideration from where they allow you to have certain things be built. But at the same time, I kind of like being able to find better ways to do things, and I think that Gears of War 4, with being able to place things wherever you want to, lets you learn more. You might not succeed as quickly, but in the long run, I think you'll be more satisfied with the strategies you discover, especially if you can get a nice diverse team that specializes.
Yeah.
Well, we almost forgot to talk about the enemies in Gears of War 4, and this will transition nicely into the campaign as well. Enemies. What do you feel? How do you feel about the complexity of the enemies from 4 to 3?
Not as great. I feel like the new enemies are, I mean, they look good, but like, you got the standard like Deadeye soldier guy, and the trackers are just tickers, and
there's not a lot that separates the
Juvies are wretches, like
the machines.
It's pretty much the same shit.
Yeah, there's not a lot that separates the machines from the locusts.
Yeah.
There's a couple of new style enemies though, like the Pouncer is different.
Think about like Corpsers and like the giant worm that eats you in Gears 2, and like the frickin' those.
Well, I mean, speaking specifically Horde enemies, I think my favorite Horde enemy to fight in any Gears of War game was probably the Sire from Gears of War 2.
The Sire.
Those were the guys that you could blow apart with a shotgun, but then they'd stand back up and run at you. The only way to actually kill them is you had to chainsaw them.
I don't know why I can't remember that.
They had like dreadlocks, and they were like naked and would like run at you. remember that part of the campaign in Gears of War 2 where you're walking through the old like facility, and there's like a whole bunch of like test tube monsters that are just like hanging out, and then one of them cracks open and they all start running at you?
I have pictures of them and I don't remember them.
Oh no. Well, you should snag
Too long since I played
snag
Gears
yourself
2.
a video of one real quick and just see if you can remember it.
Hold on. Gears of War 2, Sire, video. Let's see. Why do I have a 36-minute video? I just want to see the Sire.
This video is going to be 36 minutes probably by the time I'm done with it.
That just gets me woozy.
I might need to pick up more footage. Holy shit, with the way this is going.
Why are we slow?
No, I mean, we've been recording for 25 minutes right now.
Dang. Well, it's not that important. I can look up a Sire late. I should really just replay Gears 1 and 2 because it's been so many years. Like, I don't remember a lot from those games.
Well, I'll say this. You definitely should replay Gears of War 2's campaign because I think that was the most memorable one, personally.
That is the one with the worm, right?
Yes, that is the worm one.
Yeah. I remember that part. I remember that campaign being really good.
So you get out of the worm and you have to take this bomb to a facility. Or yeah, you leave because you have to go get the map of the tunnels, I think. I don't remember what was going on with the story, but I do remember that you had to go to this like shut down facility. And there were like turrets that you had to dodge around and like clear out, and like as you moved behind the turrets and like turn them off, and then like as you got further and further into the facility, that's when you found like all the test subject stuff that was going on. It was like underground too, I want to say, if I remember, maybe. It was like raining too when you went there. It was the same level that had the Razor Hail. I don't really know if I can paint much more than that.
Dude.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Don't remember.
I tried. But yeah, so those are my favorite. I liked the Sires the best. Another ones that I liked was I really liked the Gunkers from Gears of War 3. Those were fun little bosses. I do like in Gears of War 4 Horde, every 10 waves you get a random boss.
Yeah.
It's not the same. It's not like a same progression. It's not just a bunch of beast riders that come at you. It's you have to kind of plan accordingly. I mean, most of them you can melt if you have a team with perks upgraded, but dealing with it your first time is quite annoying. I remember the first time I had to try and kill a carrier with nobody with any perks, like when the game launched, and that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, you just saying beast riders just brought back memories. Like those were the most threatening enemies, if I recall. Those are from Gears 2, though, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
those things were annoying as fuck.
They were in 3 as well, I want to say.
Yeah.
Another thing I miss about Gears of War, the older Gears, I guess only 3, and I guess kind of Judgment was Beast mode. They needed
Beast
to bring
mode
that back.
was
But
amazing.
This game,
it was great in Judgment.
This game would have been
best.
such a boring Beast mode, with the exception of being able to play as a bouncer.
Yeah.
I feel like playing as a bouncer would have been like basically playing as like a hunter in Left 4 Dead. Would have been that much fun.
Totally.
But I think I want to see I want to see Cantus's come back. I want to see. I mean, regular Locust, I don't really care as much if they come back or not. I mean, the Swarm, for all intents and purposes, are basically Locust.
Yeah.
They look very similar. I just want to see.
They sound the same.
Yeah, I like the Pouncer. I want to see more done with Pouncers. Like, I want to fight like a giant Pouncer in the next game. I want to fight.
A big pouncer that's like, it's like 10,000 little pouncers all like together in a swarm, that like in one big body.
That's like ignorant. I love it. They're just like all crawling all over each other.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's the sound I was picturing. Totally.
The campaign story is predictable but pretty decent. The ending kind of comes for some it came as a shock. I think most people who paid enough attention to the game as it was coming through could tell where it was going. Okay.
I already forgot the ending.
At this
and the whole
point, at this
campaign.
point in the podcast, I'm gonna say this is the 29-minute mark. We'll just say, well, let's wait till it gets to. We'll wait till it gets to like closer to 30 seconds. But we'll say, if you haven't finished the campaign of a 2-year-old game, almost, first and foremost, what are you doing? Go finish the campaign, and then when you're done, come back. Spoilers, 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 spoilers. Still here? All right, last chance. Last chance. Last chance. 3, 2, 1. Okay, so the ending of the campaign is Kate's mommy is actually the Locust Queen. Dun, dun,
Oh
dun.
yeah, I remember that. That was a good twist, though. I thought.
No, it was a good twist, but you could kind of it kind of made sense though.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing where things were coming from. I thought it was pretty the coolest characters in the campaign of Gears of War 4, for me at least. I really liked the comic relief guy.
Dell?
No, it was the one Oscar.
Oscar, yeah.
I liked Oscar. JD was kind of he's kind of like more like Baird's son than he is Marcus's.
Yeah, he does kind of look like Baird. You're right. Dude, maybe he's Baird Marcus's love child.
I liked how old Phoenix came in. I did like that they had that passing of the. Okay, so I'm gonna compare.
Yeah.
This is kind of bad. I'm gonna compare this game to. I'm gonna compare this what was done right in this campaign versus what was done wrong in another game's campaign. So I know you didn't play Halo 5.
Mm-hmm.
But Halo 5 was supposed to be like Master Chief's a bad guy now. At least that's what the commercials were trying to tell you. And
that sounds cool.
Dude, if we got to play the game that the commercials were showing us, I'm sure that would have been an amazing game. Too bad that never saw the light of day. But no, so Master Chief there was like 15 missions in the game, somewhere around that, and I think you play as Master Chief in like 4 of them. And the rest of the time you're playing as this new guy, Spartan Locke, who is, fine and all. And he's cool if you watched like the movie stuff, like the expanded universe Halo stuff, like all those like they made something for Netflix, and they made some stuff that was on the Halo channel that you could watch like leading up to it, and it was like episodic, and like it had to do with like the war games and stuff from like Halo 4, which never unfortunately amounted to anything. But Locke was kind of talked about in there, and if you watched that, knew who he was, it was cool to play as him. But for a lot of people, they're just playing Halo to shoot shit. Like they don't actually follow like the expanded universe of it, or the books, or like the shows that get made. And here's Locke, and 90% of the people who are playing as Locke, I'm going to throw that number out there, it's probably not accurate, but a good portion of the people playing this game, Halo 5, did not know a single thing about Locke. And they kind of just threw us in there with him and expected us to roll with it. Whereas if you'd watched the movies, you'd be like, okay, yeah, no, this makes sense. I'm on board. There was no real passing of the torch moment in Halo 5. It was just kind of like the game's starting. It's not Chief. Move on. Deal with it. Like that's literally how we were thrown in there. I mean, I can't remember exactly how it opens up, but like, and it was just a really weird, and it didn't feel organic, and it didn't feel right, and it didn't even feel like a Halo game, to be honest with you, with that whole reviving system. It actually kind of felt like you were playing a Gears of War game. But yeah, no kidding. Except it wasn't in third person. And then you come to Gears of War, and you spend the first act you spend within your cast, but then very shortly into the second act, Marcus comes and he stays with the team for a very long time. And then towards the end of the game, more people come in from Delta, and that kind of flushes out that passing of the torch from the adults to the kids to like carry it on. And you in that final fight, you actually had that moment of like, okay, I'm the new generation Gear. I'm getting stuff done now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was really good.
And I praise its campaign for that, because it's a really daunting task to have to take a prestigious IP such as Gears of War, and try and you're a new studio, and then it's like write the story, and you're like, okay, well, the Locust War ended. Now what? What can I write that's compelling? Do we go back to the Pendulum Wars? Do we go back to E-Day? Do we go into the future? And they chose to go in the future, and I think ultimately it was a good call.
Mm-hmm.
Now I hope that they keep going forward in the future with this, and then if this is going to be a trilogy when this one's done, I think then it would be cool to see the Pendulum Wars and more.
One thing I worry about, I don't know if they've announced Gears 5 yet, but because Fortnite has been so successful, I've heard they've been cutting a lot of their other IPs and like not really caring about other games. At least Epic has in general. Like they
Epic
stopped
doesn't
production
own
of
Gears of
Paragon.
War anymore.
Oh yeah, you're right. It's fucking Coalition.
It's Coalition.
Right?
So yeah, they actually Coalition.
Dang.
People can fly.
'Cause I was reading about that the other day, but I
had
forgot that Gears
Judgment,
is.
and then the Coalition made Gears of War Ultimate Edition, and then Gears of War 4.
Because I was reading that and I'm like, oh shit, Gears of War, fuck. But then, yeah.
Yeah, no. So they're still able to make their. They're
Cool.
still able
So
to make their.
they're different now.
Yeah.
That's good because Epic is kind of not. I feel like they're not doing well. They're doing well with Fortnite. Like,
Say Epic
studio.
doesn't have a single.
I don't like their. I don't like. What I'm saying is like I don't think that they're as good as like when they were developing Gears of War. Personally, like I don't
I
think.
mean, if you look at it
Fortnite
from a
is as
financial
good a game.
standpoint, Epic is living like
Yeah, but
kings
look
right
at
now.
Gears of. Have you played Fortnite?
Yes. Unfortunately.
Fortnite is like a game that like a new studio could develop. Like that's the Gears of War 3 is not a game like a new studio. That's like a total AAA game. Like Fortnite is almost like an indie game. Like it's that simple.
But it's getting the support and development of a AAA title.
I know.
Like, it's
yeah, I
getting
know.
patches
I'm
every
just saying
week. It's
that
getting
I'm
updates
just-
every week. They're hitting
I'm
like
just
one right
saying
after
that
the other.
like yeah, they're a AAA
For
studio.
a free-to-play
for
game, that's
sure.
pretty insane.
But
I mean, I'm not a huge fan of battle royale games in the first place, but
me neither. It was never intended
I
to
have
be a
to
battle royale game.
I have to
strangely.
recognize real. Got to recognize real when I see it. So
Well, I mean, I'm not saying that it's not a financial success. I mean, Call of Duty is a financial success, but that game's fucking garbage.
yeah, it's I really am perplexed the fact that Black Ops 4 is coming out later this year. Reeling it back in though.
Yeah.
Before we get on too crazy of a tangent.
Mhm.
The campaign did a lot of things well. I like that we got new enemies. I like the flying sentinel guys. Those are cool. I like the pouncers.
They're alright.
I want to see. I liked the new boss. I liked the bosses. How there's some new bosses like Carrier's a completely new boss. Then we had some like remixes of older bosses like the Swarmac. That was the boss enemies in this game. I think this is like one of the most fun bosses I've played because the bosses were all like. They're all like here. It was not a gimmick. It wasn't gimmicky ways to kill bosses how we've had in previous Gears of War games. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like in Gears of War 1, it was like, oh, align the satellites, hit them with the Hammer of Dawn, they die because it's a berserker. In Gears of War 2, it's, oh, here's this giant fish, shoot its, throw grenades at its mouth. And then also in Gears of War 2, they're like, oh, here's Scourge. You gotta, like, dodge his, like, pillars that he throws at you and all that other stuff. Gears of War 3, the final fight, actually felt like it had some sort of, you actually felt like you were really doing something with it. But Gears of War has had like cool campaigns and cool moments, but a lot of the bosses have been generally pretty easy to take down, with the exception of Ram. Ram was pretty satisfying to kill in Gears of War 1, I will say. You actually had to do some stuff to get him. But there's more than just that one ultimate boss though in this game, and that's what I like. Cause like when you first see the Carrier, you're in that closed environment. It's like really like high stress to try and kill it. The Swarmac, I remember the Swarmac fight. You have to like dodge like a hell of bullets just to get around and pop individual swords, and he doesn't drop in the campaign until you've popped every single last one of them, regardless of how hard they are to shoot at and get to, and how close you have to get to them to actually hit them. It's yeah. I like a lot of the stuff that they did with the bosses in this game.
Yeah.
I do wish that they would bring back some of our weapons, though, for campaign, as well as multiplayer, like the mortar I would like to see return.
Yeah, man, for sure. Like, having the Mulcher and Tri-Shot together is like... You know, you don't need two of those. One of those should be a mortar.
Yeah, I completely 100% agree. And like, I like that the M-bar is like a weird alternative to the sniper, and it works for, you know, what it is.
Yeah.
I'd like to see, I'd kind of like to see the breach shot from Judgment come back into a normal like major Gears of War game. I feel like that could be a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
I might argue that it needs less bullets in its clip, though.
The M-bar, I think that's the thing I like about the M-bar.
No,
the three shot.
bridge shot. If they were to bring
the
it
breach
back,
shot.
so I
Yeah.
had 4 bullets, and if each one of those shots a headshot is a kill, and you don't even have to charge it, you can just one pop and they die.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. I don't think. Is it hit? Was it hit scan? It was hit scan, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a hit scan weapon. Yeah.
So yeah, that would need to come down to at least like 3 or maybe even 2 to keep it balanced. Because I think you'd have to do 2 bodies to down and 1. No, 2 bodies would kill because there wasn't downing in Judgment. That's right. It was 2 bodies to down or to kill, and then or 1 headshot to kill. I do like the movement in Gears of War 4 better too.
Yes, I mean it feels
The
this
mantling is nice.
pretty. It
Like
feels
the
pretty
auto
similar
mantle.
to me.
The fact that you don't have to stop running to like jump.
Yeah,
over
that I
stuff.
like when you hit melee, like when you're running into a wall and you just jump.
Oh, I lost you.
Oh, you can't hear me at all?
No, I got you again now.
Okay,
Go,
good.
just re-say that last thing and I'll just cut it out.
Oh, are you talking about how when you cover and you melee, you just leap right over it and keep going, basically?
Yeah.
That mechanic? Yeah, I like that too.
I think the wall bouncing got a little bit crazy as well too in this game.
Yeah, I'm like, the thing is, like, the wall bouncing's okay, but the thing is, because of the lag, like, when people are wall bouncing, it becomes so ridiculous, like, trying to shoot them. Like, you can aim right at them, and it doesn't matter, because, you know, you have to be aiming where they're going to be due to the lag. But when when somebody's wall bouncing, it's so hard to predict where they are. Like, you just gotta shoot and hope they die.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of that specifically, but maybe I'm just not good.
Well, closing off the good, the bad, and the ugly of Gears of War 4. I guess I'll end it with this. What do you think is what was the number one thing that you hope to see either return or come back for Gears of War 5?
Well, we were just talking about the mortar. I would love to see the mortar. You know, I don't know. The Scorcher. Yeah, I love the Scorcher too. There's a lot of guns. I'd want the Sawduff, but I know that's never gonna happen. Like, the Sawduff was the first time the Gnasher, you know, there's a starter weapon that could actually replace the Gnasher, and I really hope that they have something that can fill the slot of the Gnasher in 5, other than just, oh well, you basically have to take a Gnasher with you.
Listen to us, Coalition. Please listen and listen closely. It's okay if you have more than one shotgun in your game.
Yeah.
You just don't have to make it available and competitive. If the babies are gonna whine, let them go play competitive because they want to be playing that in the first place. Sorry, continue.
No, that was my thought summed.
I agree. I'd like to see the Sawduff come back. I'd like to see a more compelling. I'd like to see a continuation of the campaign that they've said that they've laid out for us, and see it, you know, develop into more. I'd like to see beast mode come back, or an overrun mode where it's locust versus people, but it's like ground units versus like actual stationary units as people, like with like classes and stuff like that. I don't know how you'd play that out with it not being a game where you just die instantaneously like Judgment, but if there was a way to do that, I would see it be. I would think that it'd be good. I'd also like to see more variety in the basic units, not just the boss. The bosses were fine in Gears of War 4. Keep up with what you're doing with that, but I want to see more variation in the generic ground units that we have to fight.
Yeah.
If they can buckle down and get that well.
Bring tickers back also.
Oh yes, bring the tickers back. Well, give us another Ticker Tuesday. But all in all, that's all I've got. Unless you can think of anything else to add.
Not really. Beast mode also. Yeah, that's another thing. I mean, I would rather have beast mode than the Sawduff even, because that was so much fun.
I could see that. Give us another alternative to a shotgun, and if you guys are still with us, and you want to leave comments, leave a comment on what changes you'd like to see in Gears of War. And thanks for sticking with us. And we'll catch you next time. Take it easy.